Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, TheRumpledOne, coming to you on Monday, September the 25th. The year's 2023. Let's talk trading. Trading stories we tell ourselves. Support resistance with Walmal. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. Walmal, almost any of those traditional trading books you read are going to have a chapter, if not the whole book, on support and resistance. It's quite a story, isn't it?
It is, and the thing is, there's probably something to it. The question is, what story do you put behind it so that you can use it effectively? And that's where we as traders, we need to go and make sure that we're okay and don't go and create some type of story that gets us into trouble. As we like to go and say, it's sort of, we just need to be a little bit smart about it, But in any case, the whole idea that, what's happening is you get to a certain point in the chart, and for whatever reason, I don't know why, price doesn't want to go above it. There's some type of ceiling there. And so what do we have? We have resistance, or so we call it resistance. And some people will go and say, well, that's resistance there because what's actually happening is that, there are a bunch of sellers sitting there and they're protecting their price and they don't want price to get above that. And so what they do is every time somebody tries to drive the price up above it, what they do is they come and put in a bunch of sells so they overwhelm the buyers, and it keeps the price below it, and it just creates a ceiling that can't be broke. And so the story goes, what happens is this happens and it happens and it continues to happen until eventually one side runs out of money. And what happens is at that point, the other side wins and the dam is burst, and then you've got a bunch of, and if it goes up, and let's say the buyers win, then what you have is you have a bunch of sellers that are on the hook for all these, if you're talking about the stock market, all these short shares that they bought, or if you're in the FOREX market, all this money that you bought in a particular currency, and now you're sitting there holding the bag and because it let loose and goes. And, that's the age-old story with that. Is it true? I don't know. There's probably some element of truth to it. But the thing is, well, can we use it as a story to help ourselves? And what I mean by a story, look at the chart, see it happening, and imagine what's going to happen at this level based on what's happened in the past. What do you mean by that? Well, if you go back and look at the chart and you see that, hey, at this level before, we had a lot of trouble getting through this area for whatever reason. We had a lot of trouble getting through this area. Well, you know what? There's probably a good chance it's going to have trouble there again. And if it's going to have trouble there again, well, that may give you cautionary wind. And maybe I'm more conservative than others. I'm not really a breakout trader, so I'm more of a reverse trader. So, so for me, that means, okay, we're getting into an area where I had problem crossing it before. I look at it from the perspective of, what, if I'm, let's look at price right now. Price right now is basically 2205, okay? And let's say if we go and look at the chart, there was a level back at, let's see, let me put a line there real quick, at 2212. There was a line there that's held, it held several hours ago and it held even last hour. It had some trouble in that area. And it tells me, when we get into that area, for me to be smart, if I happen to be long right now, let's say I took a long off of the double O, the 2200, and I wouldn't go and be looking to go and try to break that 2212. I'd be looking at it more from the perspective of, hey, we've had problems crossing that line. In the past, we've had problems crossing it from the top side, twice, and we've had problems crossing it from the bottom side once. That tells me, okay, let's just go and stay clear of it. Now, is that story true? I don't know. Nobody knows, and there's probably an element of truth to it, like I said earlier. I'm just going to go and say, hey, I know what's happened in the past, and I know that, the past doesn't indicate what future results are going to be, as the old expression goes. But I do know that it happens more often than not. And if it's going to happen more often than not, you know what? If I went long at 2200 and I happen to get up to 2210, you know, I'm going to be happy. You know, just take my pips and just take it off the table. You know, even if I get up to 2205, take my pips and just get off the table, because I know we're getting into that area, which I know, Tiro, you laugh at me when I call it this, but because it's not a technical term, but it's what I call it. I call it when you're getting into a danger zone, you know. And so I think of the old, TV show, you know, danger, danger, Will Robinson. You know, it's sort of like the price is going to go in reverse in this area, and you know, you have a nice little profit, and all of a sudden you watch it go bye-bye on you.
Right. You know, and it's kind of interesting because you spoke about resistance, and where we just had broken some support that was down around the recent support at 2104, where it came down there and bounced from 4 up to 12, and then it came back down and broke the double O, and then came right back up. And so now we're kind of ranging between the about 4 and 6, it seems like.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually a little bit lower than that, more like 3 and 6. And now we just, on the support resistance indicator, we just got a new resistance dot. And just to let the traders know, I'm using the old TRO dynamic support resistance indicator.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, like I said, it's a story. You know,
right.
I don't know if it's true or not. And if you look at the chart right now, I'm looking at a 5-minute chart.
Oh, you're looking at 5. Let me switch over. Okay.
And if you look like right now, between, you know, what is that, 2204 basically up to about 2209, you know, over the last 5 or 6 candles, you know, those same people that, you know, were going to tell you the story on that, you know, support resistance, they said that we've now entered into a, you know, either an accumulation or a distribution area, where people are basically, you know, either accumulating, you know, shares or accumulating, you know, buys or sells, or they're distributing, meaning they're getting out of their positions, you know. And it's the type of thing where, you know, again, it's a story about what's happening. Could it be true? Yeah, it absolutely could be true. Because if you think about it, let's say you had gotten in at 2200 and you got in big at 2200. You don't want to go and just like immediately sell big. If you're a bank and you're out there, let's say you went and bought, you know, 1,000 lots, you know, 5,000 lots at 2,200, okay, which helped drive the price up. Well, when you got up to 2,210, if you sold all 5,000 or 10,000 lots, it's going to drive the price back down, and you're not going to get what you want. So what do? You distribute it. You just start selling off a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. When I say a little bit, it's a lot of it for us, because I'm talking about selling off 100 to, you know, 500, you know, lots at a shot, and which would cause the price to drop, but then the price will go and, you know, reflect back up, and then you just keep on doing that until you're finally out of your position, you know, or so the story goes. That's how these guys do it. It makes sense. Again, no, I don't know if it's true or not, but what we can do is we can take that story and we can go and make some money on it, because what do? We look at the chart. We saw there was a bounce off the double O, okay, and which makes sense that there was going to be a bounce off of it. Why? Because it's the low for the day, okay, and the thing is, we know that if it doesn't go and penetrate that double O and penetrate it, you know, for a long distance, and it comes right back up, well, that, you know, we know that it's going to bounce all the way up at least 10 pips. That's what it does. You know, we know that that's what the pound does, you know, every single time. Okay, take advantage of that. Maybe catch, you know, you're not going to catch the 10 pip ride, but maybe you can catch 3 or 4 of the pips. Okay, and then, you know, at the 10 level, you're going to run into problems. Why? Because of what I said earlier. What was the problem? At 10 to 12 in that area, we got a known ceiling there. So what can we do? Well, we can either make a choice, to either go and just short it when it hits that area and hope that you can make something. And if you did, you could have picked up 5 pips. Or what you do is you wait for some type of confirmation. The problem is if you're looking at the 5-minute chart, by the time you got confirmation, the run was probably over. But, that's how you take advantage of stories. The stories there, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But what everybody's got to do is they got to go and build their own story as to how they're going to go and trade. At least that's what I do. I look at the chart and I look at it from the perspective of building a story that helps me. And the reason why is, yes, I got 5, 6, 7 different rules that I absolutely must follow, or I should follow. That's a better way of putting it. I got 1 or 2 rules that I absolutely must follow. And what is that? That's everything to do with preservation of cash and making sure that we're okay that way. But the other rules, I don't want to say they're bendable, but they're wrapped around whatever my method is. So what do? Is I build a story around it so it's easier for me to go and visually see it.
Yeah, and
and
the thing about support resistance is that I guess new traders, they don't fully understand it, and they haven't learned it, which you only learn it through seat time. I mean, it's like swimming. You only learn it when you get in the pool and get wet. Trading's kind of the same way. And one of the things is like you can see where you have what I call horizontal support resistance, where you have 2 or more dots at the same level. And then every time you see a dot getting pushed down or pushed up, that's what's happened. It's trying to find a new level. And so I know what some traders who use this indicator, in fact, they even had me make a modification where if it's pushing up, there wouldn't be any, the dots would go away. They would only look at the horizontal support and resistance. So they know, okay, between here and here, there's movement, there's no resistance, or there's no support, and then they just wait. And one of the things I did was I think it was in this indicator, I have a display, show gauge, true. And what it'll do is it'll show the number of times that it's pushed either up or down. And so I usually wait for that number to get to about 4 before I start looking for a reversal. And that's just a story I tell myself if I'm using this.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Giro. It's just, we build the stories that help us trade because it just makes it easier for us to go and do it.
Yeah.
And if we don't do it that way, then it just sometimes it gets a little bit too difficult to actually execute when we're supposed to execute.
Yeah, and then another thing about this indicator, it has the range and then the percent. That's the fib retrace of that range. So right now we're at 43 point, right around 43, 42 retrace, and we know price likes to retrace to these fibs, which is another story that we tell ourselves, and we'll talk about that maybe tomorrow. We'll talk about the fib numbers, since I just brought it up and we're looking at this support resistance indicator.
I think we're out of time. We're pretty close to it.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here looking at it because we seem to be stuck right around the 05, and one of the stories that I tell myself is if it hits the double O and breaks it, then it's going to go 95, 90, then down to 75. And then when it comes up through, it's going to hit 5, 10, and then probably 25. So we'll just have to wait and see if that story pans out also. So, fellow traders, what stories are you telling yourselves? Oh, and I know there was a trader asked about success. Quick answer: if you live to trade another day and you've got more money than the day before, that's success. And just always remember and never forget, it's not what you trade, It's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.